Another one of the articles previewing camp that you wrote, 5 storylines to watch. First one, no hard feelings. Take us through take us through that one.
Yeah, yeah. I just think it's going to be interesting, and maybe it's nothing. But Miles Garrett, when he had the really public trade request this offseason, I think it made some. I know it made some fans mad, and I don't think everything's been forgiven. So, how is he? What's the reaction, the reception on Friday during the first public training camp practice? I expect it to be great, and the people coming out to training camp practice love the Browns, so I don't know, I'm pretty sure they don't go there to boo or even to ignore Miles. And Miles has always loved the fans, has tried to cultivate a relationship, so I think he might even go out of his way. We've seen him, throw balls in the crowd during practice before. I could see him really trying to engage with the fans, but I'm just curious how that goes. And then if things start going poorly during the season, is that kind of the first thing that Browns fans go to? Will it be he asks for a trade? Like if he jumps offside, is that going to be the thing? I just think it's kind of hovering, and I'm not saying it should because I think Miles has put in a lot of time and has kind of a lot of collateral, good will built up that maybe this should be let go. But I'm curious to see how that plays out.
4 for 1, the quarterback battle is another one.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to keep talking about it forever. It should be number one, but I have a separate quarterback story we talked about, so I had to drop it to number two. But I mean, that's going to get, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's going to get a high percentage of the conversation during camp.
Solid ground, and this one's intriguing. Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah, if you just take a couple steps back and you go a little big picture, coming off 3-14, and I know that the Haslams love Berry and Stefanski. They both got multi-year extensions before last season. The Haslams went out of their way to take responsibility for the Deshaun Watson trade and contract, even saying that this might not be the best offseason to find your long-term quarterback. So there's a lot of reason to believe that the Haslams want continuity. And I do believe that they want continuity and stability and want to keep Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski. I also know that if they go 2-15 or 3-14 again, it's really hard to keep the guys at top when you have back-to-back disastrous years. So, I think nobody would benefit more than a 7-9 or 7-10 record or better than Berry and Stefanski, because I think then that's a no-brainer that they're coming back. But if the season starts poorly with, when it's possible with this difficult schedule, things start to go sideways, you're playing rookie quarterbacks. I think it's going to be important to keep an eye on that win total, whether it should be important or not.
So transition time, and this one's really intriguing because I think it's the reason that the national pundits are kind of killing the Browns roster. I saw one today where they're the second worst roster, which I find interesting. But they got a lot of young guys that they're counting on. Young guys are going to get an opportunity this year.
Well, yeah. I mean, we saw this was the first offseason where they really didn't make a bunch of splash free agent signings, a lot of big moves. I mean, even last year they traded for Jerry Jeudy. That was a big move. And you didn't see that this year. And it's because they don't have any salary cap room. And they're trying to recover from that. They didn't have the first round draft picks for those 3 years because of the Deshaun Watson trade. So there's no doubt that this roster is in a transition. It needed to get younger, it needed to get cheaper. And I don't think that process is over, but they're right in the middle of it. And, I do think that's one of the reasons the Haslams might have some leniency. But, Andrew Berry is part of the reason the Browns got here in these spots. So, and his draft picks have been hit or miss. So this is a key year for the Browns to identify some of the young talent that you can say, okay, these are key core pieces. And I'm not sure they've done that enough. I don't think there's enough guys you go, yep, he's one, he's one, he's one. We talked about Jones. We talked about Hickman. You have the rookies, right? Mason Graham, who we mentioned. We don't know what's going on with Judkins, Carson Schlesinger. Like if all of a sudden some of these guys from the last 2 or 3 draft classes prove to be, okay, this guy can be a long-term starter / key piece, I think the Browns will feel better about where they're going. But that makes everything about this year more difficult because there are question marks given the way the roster is compared to the way it has been.
And your last one, hold the line. This might be in my mind, If the offensive line bounces back and is league average or better, that's probably the biggest thing that would signal an increase in win total.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, or a good correlation to make there. And for a long time, it was a given that the offensive line was the strength of the team, and I know that the line itself wants to be, and I know the Browns are counting on it to be one this year. But there's questions. I think it's next week. Ethan Posick turns 30. That means all four starters besides DeJuan Jones will be 30 plus and in the last year of their contracts. So we're going to see, we talk about transition. We're going to see it on the line to whatever degree. Is this Joe Bitonio's last year? Do the other three guys leave in free agency? All that's possible. Like there could be 5 new starters on the O line next year, and I don't think that's outrageous to say that. So, but first we start with this year, and no matter who's playing quarterback, you better protect him. If not, it doesn't matter who's back there if you can't protect him. And then we talk about the commitment to the run game or the recommitment. That starts up front. And the line is even more important if you don't have your number one back because he's suspended, if that happens. So, you look at Batonio and Posick and Teller and Conklin, you go, man, those 4 guys, you can trust them. And I think you can, but they need to stay healthy and they need to show that they're not done at 30 or however old each guy is.